I've spent the last 6 months shadowing former spies to uncover the truth behind their incredible language learning abilities. I've been blown away to find 12 specific linguistic secrets that they use to learn foreign languages fast.
And we weren't even told what language it was going to be at first. It was it was shrouded in mystery.
Now, after learning 8 languages myself and teaching tens of thousands of students, I've been mighty impressed by these techniques. CIA, MI6, KGB, we've got them all in here. So if you'd like to steal some of these pro tricks to speed up your own language learning, well, you're in the right place.
You were just there going, rip it out for, oh my God. What if he now launches and realizes that there's two Westerners in the room as well, who shouldn't be here? As he found out, and all this is going through the back of your mind, thinking, funny, what the hell's going to happen here?
Who do you think he might be talking about? Take a wild guess. I will show you a little bit later on. Now, as we all know, spies are incredibly good at foreign languages.
Guten Tag, kann ich Ihnen helfen?
Ja, mein Büro hat ein Auto reserviert.
Yeah, Bond should have been dead a long time ago. Real spies have a lot more riding on their language skills, though, than just impressing the locals.
A toast per ora e per il momento che verrà. To this moment and the moment yet to come.
And honestly, if MI6 and CIA had to do things in a normal way, I wouldn't have such a great story to tell you.
У тебе убил брат. Я з Австралії, пан не похожий на тебе. В Києві, по-моєму, в 93-му.
Love that show. So why do you think spies bother learning languages? Can't they just hack your computer and spy on you sneakily? No, if you are a spy, you have to blend in, gather intelligence, impersonate people, and as you'll see later, a huge part of it is influencing people, all without getting caught, of course. But if you can't speak someone's language, how on earth are you going to influence them? Words, after all, are weapons.
So that was pretty much just over a year-long language course. And then you have about 6 to 8 months then after that of your applied training, as they term it, which is then learning your tradecraft of how to apply that language in the real world and what's required of you, which is the classified element.
And spies need to understand words like their lives depend on it. That is their reason why for learning a language. We all need a reason why to learn a language, whether that's meeting people, reading books, watching TV, understanding a culture. Finding your own reason why that's going to motivate you to keep learning is absolutely key.
There are 100,000 undercover covert operatives collecting secrets.
If you're going to be an agent for the CIA, there are all sorts of crazy requirements like war zone deployment experience and learning another language. But get this, real spies thrive in chaos.
Hello, Katarina. I have the package for your society. I am in the door. No, I am to the door. On the door.
And the CIA doesn't actually care how advanced your vocab is. They care if you have what it takes to learn a completely new language, because it's hard and many people quit. Most people actually never finish their language courses. That's what the statistics say. But you know what the CIA says? Any language course trying to make you perfect is completely missing the point.
Perfection is a bit off-putting, and we're more endeared towards imperfection. So the next time your mind criticizes you for all your imperfections, take a deep breath, release, remind yourself, imperfection is more relatable.
You getting this? Listen, it doesn't matter how much time you spend going over new words and grammar if you never actually have any conversations in the language you're learning. You'll have all of this knowledge in your head, but you won't be any good at actually speaking.
Why don't you go sit on your boat and I'll blow our foghorn when we're having gang. Oh, good cheese. Oh! God, I forgot my line.
I like her. She doesn't care. Guys, when you try too hard to be perfect, that's what the CIA calls the perfection paradox. It's what happens when you get so focused on practicing a skill and trying to get it perfect that you never actually use the skill at all. Indeed, in my own language learning, I've always found that perfection really is the enemy, because it's only by making mistakes you can figure out what you got wrong and then actually improve. And that's why spies train to recognize this problem and actually fix it. Be a Jennifer Lawrence. Just open your mouth and speak. So if perfect grammar isn't the most important language skill a spy needs, then what is? Fluency? A foolproof accent? Cultural awareness? Something else entirely? Well, we will see. But first, don't you want to hear a spy trick that is literally the opposite of what guys like me always tell you? I know you do.
It's very, very hard to beat the bad guys. Very, very hard. The best thing you can do is learn to think like them so you can stay kind of one step ahead. So when you start to protect your front door, you look for the bad guy to come in through the back door.
Crazy spy knowledge here. Your brain learns faster in an unpredictable environment. So you know how those other language teachers are always nagging you about sticking to a routine? I think I might have said that from time to time as well. Spies say the opposite. See, in Spyland, being predictable is a one-way ticket to getting caught. Plus, being a creature of habit can actually put your brain to sleep. Your brain's like, oh, this old grammar thing again, and switches off. So what is a spy's secret weapon? Anti-routines.
Number one is obviously just shifting the perspective of I need to do more things and I need to add more things to my routine, when in fact you need to stop doing things that you're currently doing. All that remains is the work to be done.
The thing is, learning is exactly the opposite of a brainless habit. It's about shaking things up, and anti-routines are designed to upset your habits and force your brain to think actively at all times. That's why spies deliberately sabotage their routines when learning a language.
So the 6 of us had 3 months to learn Pashto up to a really decent level. So that's reading, writing, and actually, obviously listening, but speaking it as well, to be able to converse, to get the points across, so we can find out pieces of the intelligence jigsaw again in Afghanistan.
And if you keep your brain on its toes, you will learn a language faster. Want some ideas? Well, how about instead of studying at your desk today, take your StoryLearning course and go and sit in a park. And when you go and get your takeaway coffee, instead of just ordering it in English, first think, how might you ask for it in Spanish or French? And then while you're at it, just try practicing with the dogs. I know this sounds crazy, but it kind of works. By the way, have you ever wondered if sounding like a native speaker is actually a good thing? It might not be, but hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, I would love it if you would like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support really helps me keep going and make more of these videos.
Et si jamais il me trouve ici, je me fais tuer.
Je ne laisserai personne vous trouver. Ne vous inquiétez pas, c'est que j'ai ma réputation à préserver.
Listen, you don't want to be too fluent if you're a spy. But wait, why would I say that? Surely that cannot be true.
No CIA officer wants to be fluent in a language. You don't want to be fluent in a language. Because if you're fluent in a language, you end up looking and sounding extremely suspicious. Why is this ambiguously brown guy rocking through Paris speaking perfect French with an accent that comes from South France? It's too suspicious.
Makes perfect sense, right? You definitely want to speak the language well enough to have a conversation, about a B2 level at least, but spies need to blend in, and sounding too perfect can actually raise suspicion.
Indeed, during the period I've been here, the 80-out possibilities have enormously increased. Everything about Horsham is that it's reasonably civilized. It's not so rushed and so full that, you feel that you're under pressure all the time.
You've got to walk that tightrope very carefully. If I were a spy in, I don't know, Brazil or somewhere, I could probably fool them with a heavy disguise. But, no one looking at me is going to think that I'm Brazilian. No one's buying that. But speaking of blending in, there is another thing that can break your cover.
Dies hier ist der hervorragende Sensationsdarsteller Enzo Gorlon.
Buongiorno, signori, piacere. Gli amici della vedetta ammirata da tutti noi, questa gemma propria della nostra cultura, saranno naturalmente accolti sotto la mia protezione per la durata del loro soggiorno. Grazie.
Yeah, nobody is buying that he is Italian. Listen, an accent is not a problem. An accent is fine as long as you're a civilian. It's no big deal. But for a spy, an accent can be their best friend or worst enemy. See if you can figure out the problem here.
Ich schlage vor, dass Sie das Fräulein nicht weiter belästigen und an Ihren Tisch zurückkehren.
Entschuldigen Sie, Herr Sturmführer, Sie haben einen sehr ungewöhnlichen Akzent. Woher kommen Sie?
Just a single mispronounced word can reveal that you are a foreigner, even if your grammar and vocab are perfect.
Wie unser frisch gebackener Vater hier habe auch ich ein sehr genaues Ohr für Akzente. Und wie er finde ich Ihren äußerst seltsam.
What kind of accent are we talking about? You're speaking German, but you sound American. Does that automatically blow your cover? Well, not necessarily. That only gives you away if you're pretending to be German or whatever it is. You look American. Why do you speak perfect Arabic or the other way around?
What do you do for a living? I'm really glad you asked that. I'm a computer engineer. You're a what? I'm sorry, I said, I'm a computer engineer.
The key is to match your accent to your cover story. Ever heard of sleeper spies? Now this is where things get terrifying. Sleeper spies have to erase every trace of their native accent. Now this is real movie stuff.
Speak Russian. Мы тебя очень любим, Sonishka.
They have to sound like they were born there. A single wrong word can be the end. There's this ex-KGB spy, Jack Barsky.
Is he good enough? Can we teach him English so well that he can pretend to have been born in the United States?
He led a double life in the US for nearly a decade, got a job as a bicycle delivery guy, and a perfect American accent. No one knew he was Russian.
Worked with her did a lot of phonetic exercises. I worked like a maniac.
Look out for a language tip from Jack coming up a bit later. Listen guys, unless you're a sleeper spy in training, don't get hung up on sounding exactly like a native speaker. That's not always really the best strategy. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you can communicate well whilst also sound authentic enough. Just embrace your unique voice. We're all unique, and that's what makes us interesting. You know, I have a secret weapon of my own that you might love, especially if you're getting a bit tired of language courses that never seem to pan out. If you're learning Spanish, this one is especially for you. Me and my team at StoryLearning have come up with something very, very interesting to fast track your Spanish. It's called the 10-day Spanish challenge, and it uses the StoryLearning method, which is a unique language method that uses stories, and tens of thousands of people just like you have achieved their language learning dreams with us. That's why we say that story learning is what you do when you've tried everything else and you're finally ready to learn. The 10-day challenge is just 10 days. You could probably guess that one. It's only $10 and it will give you a completely new way of looking at learning Spanish. Best thing is it takes only 10 minutes a day to do. So if you'd like to try the 10-day challenge and learn Spanish with a method that you haven't used before, check the link in the description below, or you can scan the QR code if you're watching on your TV and come join us. It's only $10. Now, where were we?
He said, so would you say you'd be intrigued to learn a language? I thought, yeah, okay, yeah, I would. He goes, I'm going to send you away for an MLAT test, modern language aptitude test. He said, you go up to a place in Rutland. I can't tell you much about this trade, he said, but you come out as a junior technician, which is equivalent to a Lance Jack, Lance Corporal in the army. He said, and it's on a high pay band. He said, but on completion of that, you go to Berlin as your first tour. He said, so you'll be on decent money. He said, you get qualifications from it. And he said, basically, spying.
The Secret Service doesn't pull any punches with language training. It's all or nothing, and spies do language immersion like you've never seen it before. Try to imagine a language boot camp where you're dropped in a foreign country for 6 months with no escape route. You eat, sleep, and breathe the language 24/7, living with locals and avoiding English speakers like the plague. The goal, of course, is total immersion. And remember, you are incognito.
You're using your skills then.
Yeah.
But we got back on the helicopter. We took off. It failed again. They were trying to, the Chileans were trying to tell this Iraqi guy what they thought the problem was and everything else. And it's with a pump and this, that, and the other. And I went, Maducha. And he went, oh, thanks. You know, and I thought, oh,
yeah,
I've given the game away.
Yeah.
Listen to this. Back in the Cold War, the CIA pushed their agents to the limits to learn Russian to an advanced level within a year, which is pretty crazy. But you know what? Well, it worked. Meanwhile, on my own turf here in the UK, MI6 has its own secrets for language learning, and they are into total immersion in hostile environments.
I'm a big, blonde, 6'4" Welshman,
yeah,
and people don't expect me to speak Arabic.
They believe in throwing their agents into the deep end, forcing them to learn on the fly in real-world situations.
My primary operational language in the military was Russian. So that was pretty much just over a year-long language course. And then you have about 6 to 8 months then after that of your applied training, as they term it, which is then learning your tradecraft of how to apply that language in the real world and what's required of you, which is the classified element.
So Speaks basically a spy.
Yeah.
Very much not for the faint of heart, but it gets results. Now maybe I could try the spy thing. No? So what can you do if you are stuck at home and you're not a spy in training living abroad? Well, here is a fun idea. Change everything in your home into the language that you're learning. Your phone, your movies, your Netflix, your music, your people maybe. Slightly bolder one, I'll leave that one up to you. But think of it as building your own mini spy school at home. The more you surround yourself, your daily activities with the language, the faster you will learn. By now it's pretty obvious, a spy's goal is language usefulness, not mastery. But what languages do spies actually learn? Well, let me check with my people at Langley. Give me a second.
CIA, how may I help you?
I know that I'm contributing to a mission greater than myself.
Я говорю по-русски.
나는 한국말 할 수 있습니다.
Okay, the next spy language trick is so amazing it kept me up for 3 whole nights and I had weird dreams about it. You're going to be just the same. You'll see.
I was taught Russian to be kind of passive because you're there, you're listening in. We weren't going to be on East Berlin talking to Russians and everything else. Yeah. So our passive and my passive skills for Russian are still very good. My spoken skills, yeah, I can go in and put a Russian accent on and at the beginning.
Spies have killer memory tricks up their sleeve, and one of the coolest is the memory palace technique. This one goes all the way back to ancient Greece, and here's how it works. You visualize a familiar place, your home, your route to work, whatever. This is your palace, your location. Then you stick bits of information you need to remember in specific places on this mental map, this location that you've prepared. And when you need to remember the info, you just walk through your memory palace, you visualize yourself doing this, and you pick up the pieces along the way. It's pretty cool. They've even studied this, and the memory palace technique helps people remember 38% more information. So I guess it works, and I guess I know what I'm doing tonight. Now, I promised you a tip from that ex-KGB guy.
I started studying English, so I started back from scratch. You know, they paid for a tutor, and I went from like English 101. I went through that in a couple of months, and then I got another guy with whom I expanded this. We had conversations rather than working from a textbook, and I worked like a maniac. I threw myself into the study of English like you wouldn't believe, and my inspiration came from Vladimir Lenin. So I started reading newspapers, and every word that I didn't know, I wrote down on an index card, German, English, and I piled them up. And so I really learned 100 new English words every day. I know this because I counted them.
100 new words every day. That is some commitment. That is what the KGB did. But agencies closer to home have a slightly different approach. They like to prioritize learning the 1,000 most important words. Why is that? Well, every language has what we call high frequency words that come up a lot. And these words are obviously a lot more useful.
High frequency use words are those words that you use the most, or the words that the target language uses the most.
And those 1,000 words make up 80% of all conversations that you have. So if you want to be like a spy, well, you start with learning the 1,000 most used words first. And now you've got something that you can actually stick in your memory palace.
And from now on, perhaps we should sound like French waiters. French waiters? Yes.
Now, listening is an art form for spies, obviously, and it's critical. They're trained to pick up on every little tiny detail in your dialect, your accent, and the exact things that you say. Why? Because how someone speaks can reveal loads about them, their background, intentions, even their next move. If you've been watching my Guess the Accent videos, you will know what I mean.
So you learn a language, and then you get taught your tradecraft, which is ultimately being an eavesdropper.
During World War II, the British Secret Service eavesdropped on German prisoners of war in a genius way. They set up an operation called the M Room, where they secretly recorded conversations of captured German soldiers. The Germans began to spill their secrets, and what did MI6 get? Well, a goldmine of intel. That's what. It saved thousands of lives, but favourite part is they also learned loads of slang, idioms, and military jargon that you wouldn't find in any textbook. It's a famous story. So there you go. If you want to sharpen your listening skills, try eavesdropping on conversations in the language you're learning. Just be respectful, of course. You're not a real spy. You're just trying to pick out new words and expressions. If you're really good, maybe you can even tell the exact area that they're from. I tell you, eavesdropping on conversations on the bus really is an underrated tactic.
Я пришел сюда рассказать тебе одну историю.
Мне не нравится история, но я все равно слушаю. И, пожалуйста, in English, please.
Imagine having to speak a foreign language while under extreme pressure. I mean, picture this. You take an awesome Russian course, then you go to Russia, pretend to be Russian, but you get arrested and the police force you to take a polygraph test in Russian. Spies do this all the time, though, whether they're in the middle of a covert operation or under interrogation.
And this guy looked at me, I was like, you could see his complete disdain for me. And he went, Wales. And I went, yeah. He went, Wayne, Wales, which is, where's Wales? I went, Wales. He goes, Wales. I went, Sweden. And he went, oh, stamp the passport. And I went.
So how does a spy stay calm? Well, they practice, of course, in hardcore situations. And when the day comes that the spy faces a bad guy, well, they won't be panicking. Listen to this.
All of a sudden, in walks Saddam Hussein. And hellfire. Literally, the hairs on the back, not just my neck, but everybody. You could see goosebumps on everybody. It just felt evil.
Try talking to native speakers you've just met, even if it does make you nervous, because the more you practice, the more confident you'll get. I had to do this in French when I was very, very young and living in Paris, and trust me, you will survive.
Beef balls are overrated. What you really need are some Wagyu beef. Man, I wish I knew English.
这样吧，普通话你们会说了吧？
普通话？那肯定不会啊。
You guys in the US know all about Spanglish. That's an example of what's called code switching. Now, code switching is about flipping between languages or dialects very easily. You get so used to doing it automatically that no one even notices. Well, when you're a spy, you have to be able to do this quickly and without raising eyebrows.
¿Cómo están Jorge y los niños?
Están todos bien, señor. Gracias.
كله تمام، شكرا.
تحكي عربي؟
اي نعم.
من زمان سكنت بالشام.
KGB agents were pros at this. They would often switch between Russian and the local language to blend in and avoid suspicion, probably better than most. It's the kind of language trick that you can have a lot of fun with. Maybe you have a friend you can try it with, start off switching languages quickly around the house and then get out there and go all deep cover on them. Great way to get more fluent and adaptable. If you want to be really, really badass though, you need to combine it with the next thing.
You're looking particularly beautiful tonight.
You're looking particularly beautiful tonight.
Johnny English is up to no good as usual. Ever wished you could read minds? I certainly have. Well, language is not just about words, it's about culture too. And one thing that Spies know is to never underestimate those little details, local customs, what makes people laugh, what can get people's guard down. Understanding these details can be as important as speaking the language itself. In World War I, there was this famous spy, Mata Hari. You've probably heard of her. She wasn't just any spy, she was a Dutch exotic dancer who became one of the most infamous double agents of the war. Crazy story, she got in with European high society, charmed the socks off some military officers and walked out with their secrets. I mean, I'm not going to recommend you do this, but you can learn something powerful here. Knowing the culture inside out can give you a huge edge. Want some practice? Well, pick a language and go find a slang phrase that they use. Video is good for this, you need visuals. Now practice mimicking it until you nail the accent, the intonation, the body language, the underlying emotion, everything like that. If it's Korean, you must be Korean when it comes out of your mouth. Small adjustments, huge difference. Now next week, I want to hear what you did to go all double agent. Deal? Come back and write it in the comments. Anyone guess the one skill that matters most undercover? Well, it's the secret weapon that spies have known for centuries.
He came out of the shop, he took the flowers, and most Americans tend to hold the flowers by the stalk so that the flowers are up. This individual took them and grabbed the stalk and then held the flowers so that they were facing down. And I said, that's how they carry flowers in Eastern Europe.
Their voice does not demonstrate the same confidence that their body demonstrates. So you know that that person is lying.
The ultimate spy language is body language. And I'm not just talking about hand gestures in Italian. Words can be a trap, and that's why spies spend countless hours mastering the art of reading people's body language to try to see what little details they're hiding. They're basically experts at it. Body language can give you so many little clues in situations where you might not catch every word. Facial expressions, gestures, posture.
There's a lot of myths out there. The ones that stand out is if you cross your arms, that it's a blocking behavior. That's just nonsense. Even when you don't like the person that is in front of you, this isn't to block them out. It's actually to self-soothe, because in essence, it's a self-hug.
When you combine facial expressions with body movements, body language, nonverbal cues, and you add on top of that effective elicitation techniques that you are in control of, now you have a more robust platform to tell if someone's lying to you.
Best part is, spies then turn this around and learn how to use the same body language to fool the bad guys. And if you pay a lot of attention to native speakers' body language, you're for sure going to understand the language like a pro. Want to have some fun? Go on a mission to learn the craziest accent you can find in English. You won't believe your ears when you hear some of the options.